Have you ever met someone who seems perfectly fine on their own, never asks for help, never really opens up, and the moment things get emotionally close, they pull away? Maybe that person is someone you love. Maybe that person is you. Here's what most people get wrong about avoidant attachment. They think it's a personality type. Or they think the person is just cold or emotionally unavailable. But the science tells a completely different story. Avoidant attachment isn't a personality flaw. It's a survival strategy. And it started before that person could even speak. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how avoidant attachment forms in early childhood, what's happening in the child's brain, what the caregiver is doing or not doing, and why the child's nervous system makes a very logical but very costly decision. I'm Ava, and this is Baby Brain Blueprint, where we decode early childhood development so you can raise emotionally healthy kids. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics because attachment theory has a lot of jargon, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Attachment theory was first developed by British psychiatrist John Bowlby in the 1950s. His core insight was this: human babies are biologically wired to form a bond with their caregiver, not just for food or warmth, but for emotional safety, for a secure base from which to explore the world. In the 1960s and 70s, psychologist Mary Ainsworth took Bowlby's work further. She designed a famous experiment called the strange situation, where she observed how one-year-old babies responded when their caregiver left the room and then came back. What she discovered was 3 distinct patterns. Secure attachment. The baby was a little upset when mom left, but quickly calmed when she returned. They felt safe. Anxious attachment. The baby was extremely distressed, and even when mom came back, they couldn't settle. They were overwhelmed. Avoidant attachment. Here's the one we're focusing on today. These babies appeared almost indifferent. Mom leaves? No big reaction. Mom comes back? They barely acknowledged her. They turned their attention to toys instead. On the surface, the avoidant babies looked like the calmest, the most independent, even the most mature. But researchers attached heart rate monitors. And what they found was shocking. These babies' hearts were racing. They were not calm. They had simply learned to suppress their distress, to not show it. That suppression, that shutting down of emotional expression, is the foundation of avoidant attachment. And it doesn't happen randomly. It happens for a very specific reason. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a 6-month-old baby. She falls, bumps her head, and starts to cry. A normal human response. In a household where secure attachment is forming, mom or dad picks her up, holds her close, makes eye contact, maybe says something soft. The baby feels seen, felt, safe. Her nervous system calms. Now imagine a different household. Baby falls, cries, and the response she gets is silence. Or sigh. Or mom picks her up but looks away, body tense, impatient to put her back down. Or dad says, "Stop crying, you're fine." Or simply walks away. This doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be abuse. The caregiver can be completely present in the house, feeding the baby, clothing the baby, keeping the baby safe, and still be emotionally unavailable. What researchers describe is a caregiver who feels uncomfortable with emotional expression in the child, shows impatience or withdrawal when the baby cries or reaches for closeness, doesn't outwardly react to the child's achievements or distress, avoids touch or makes physical contact feel stiff and brief, discourages vulnerability by expecting the child to toughen up or be independent. And in some cases, the caregiver was raised the exact same way. They aren't doing this out of malice. They genuinely don't know how to respond to emotional bids because nobody ever responded to theirs. The pattern repeats, not because parents are bad, but because no one ever broke the cycle. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating from a brain development perspective. A baby's brain is not passive. It is constantly running pattern recognition. It is asking over and over, when I feel something and reach out, what happens? And when the answer, again and again, is nothing good, discomfort, withdrawal, rejection, the brain starts to adapt. Because here's what's happening neurologically. The infant's stress response system, The amygdala, the cortisol system, is activated every time they feel distress. That distress needs to be regulated, and normally, the caregiver is the regulator. But when the caregiver doesn't show up emotionally, the child is left with activated stress and no external help to bring it down. So the brain does something remarkable. It begins to suppress the signal. It doesn't stop the feeling. The heart rate data proved that. It stops the expression of the feeling. The child's system learns. If I show my need, I get rejected or ignored. If I suppress my need, I can at least maintain proximity. I don't get warmth, but I don't get pushed away either. This is a logical survival calculation. The child is not broken. The child is brilliant. But the cost is enormous. They are now building an entire internal architecture around the belief that my needs are too much. I am safer alone. I cannot rely on others. Self-sufficiency is survival. These are not conscious thoughts. This is wiring, laid down in the first 2 years of life, encoded in the nervous system, shaping how that child, and eventually that adult, relates to every relationship they will ever have. So, what does avoidant attachment actually look like in a child? How do you recognize it? These children tend to seem unusually self-sufficient for their age. They don't ask for help. They figure things out alone. Parents often think, what a great kid, so independent. And yes, independence is wonderful, but this independence often comes from a painful place. Not show visible distress in separations. When you drop them off at school or daycare, they don't cry. They seem fine. But remember those heart rate monitors. Avoid eye contact or physical affection in moments of stress. When they're hurt or scared, they don't run to you. They might even walk the other direction. Focus on objects or tasks instead of people. They're often described as in their own world. Play can become a way of regulating because play doesn't require emotional vulnerability. Struggle with peer relationships. They might come across as cold or distant with other children, not because they don't want connection, but because they don't know how to do it safely. Here is something really important I want every parent and caregiver watching this to understand. The quiet child is not always the okay child. The child who doesn't complain, doesn't cry, doesn't make a fuss. That child may have simply learned that expressing their needs leads nowhere. So they stop trying. That is not strength. That is adaptation under pain. Now I want to take a moment here because I know some of you watching might be doing a mental inventory of your own parenting or thinking about your own childhood. Please hear me when I say this. Perfect parenting is not the standard. It was never the standard. Renowned pediatrician and psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott coined the phrase good enough parenting. His research showed that children don't need perfect attunement. They need enough attunement enough of the time to build a secure base. In fact, the research suggests that even in secure attachment relationships, caregivers only respond accurately to their child's emotional cues about 30% of the time. The other 70% involves misreads, missed moments, and repairs. It is the repair that matters most. When you miss a moment, when you're distracted, frustrated, unavailable, and then you come back, acknowledge it, reconnect. You are teaching your child one of the most important lessons they will ever learn. Relationships rupture. And relationships can be repaired. I am not abandoned when things go wrong. Avoidant attachment tends to form not from occasional misses, but from consistent, chronic emotional unavailability with little to no repair. That is a very different thing. And it is changeable. Let's fast forward now. Because what starts in childhood doesn't stay in childhood. The internal working model, that belief system about relationships, that was built in the first 2 years of life, becomes the operating system for every relationship the child will enter as an adult. Adults with avoidant attachment often look, from the outside, extremely put together. They tend to be high achievers, independent, reliable, not emotionally demanding. But in intimate relationships, the patterns emerge. They feel suffocated when someone needs emotional closeness. They pull away exactly when a partner needs them most. They intellectualize feelings instead of actually feeling them. They often prefer being alone, not because they don't want love, but because love feels unsafe. And the painful irony is this: Deep down, people with avoidant attachment often desperately want closeness. They just don't know how to let it in without their nervous system raising every alarm it has. Because back when they were small and needed closeness, closeness led to pain. The nervous system never forgot. One survey found that about 20% of adults identify as having an avoidant attachment style. And research shows men are somewhat more likely to develop it, possibly because many cultures still socialize boys to suppress emotional expression from a very young age. Which means this pattern is far more common than most people realize. I never want to leave you with just a problem without also talking about possibility. So, can avoidant attachment change? Yes. And this is backed by solid research. The nervous system is not fixed. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, is real, and it continues throughout life. For children, the most powerful intervention is a consistent, warm, emotionally attuned caregiver, even if that caregiver wasn't present from the very beginning. Children who receive emotionally responsive care can and do shift toward more secure attachment, even if early years were difficult. For adults, the pathways include secure relationships, a romantic partner, a therapist, a close friendship that consistently show the nervous system. You're safe here. Your needs won't be punished. Therapy, particularly attachment-based somatic or EMDR approaches that work with the body, not just the mind. Awareness itself, simply understanding the origin of your patterns, is the beginning of changing them. You can't rewire what you can't see. The attachment wounds that formed in silence in childhood in the absence of emotional attunement, they can heal, slowly, with the right conditions. And if you're a parent watching this, the most powerful thing you can do for your child's lifelong emotional health is this. When they come to you, be there. Not perfectly, just genuinely. Avoidant attachment starts not with a dramatic event, but with a quiet, repeated lesson. Your feelings are too much. Handle it yourself. And the child listens. Because children always listen. But here's the thing about that lesson. It was never true. It was just the only story available at the time. Now you have a new story. If this video gave you something useful, whether you're a parent, a partner, or someone trying to understand yourself better, share it with someone who needs it. It might be the most important 15 minutes they spend today. I'm Ava, and I'll see you in the next one.